I, Dr. Harjinder Singh, welcome all participants in this certificate course in pesticide chemistry, which is offered by PG Department of Chemistry, Multani Mal Modi College, Patiala, for all undergraduate students of final year with chemistry as the major subject. In this very first lecture, I will discuss a basic introduction to the pesticide chemistry. So in today's lecture, we will discuss briefly history of these pesticides, different terms used in pesticide chemistry, as well as advantages and disadvantages of using pesticides. So if we start with brief history of these pesticides, the history of these pesticides is dated back to the 2000 BC. And in 2000 BC, peoples are known to use these pesticides on their crops. Elemental sulfur is the first known pesticide and it is dated back to the 4500 years ago. At the same time, Rig Veda, which is 4000 years old, also advocates the use of poisonous plants for the pest control. The toxic chemicals such as arsenic, mercury, lead were used in 15th century to kill various pests that affect crops. Now in 17th century, various poisonous plants and extracts such as nicotine sulfate are used as insecticide to kill various pests. In 19th centuries, uh, two natural products were basically used as the insecticides. One was the Pyrethrum and Cristermus and Rotenone. These both natural compounds were extracted from the roots of Daris tropical vegetable. With Further, in 1950, arsenic-based pesticides were introduced, while in 1950-70, organochloride pesticides such as DDT, which was later banned, and then it was replaced by organophosphates and carbamates was used. Similarly, herbicides which are used to kill weeds are become more common in 1960s, and other nitrogen-based compounds and carboxylic acids such as 2,4-D glycophosphates are used till date. Now, if we look over the different terms that are used in pesticide chemistry, so first of all, let us understand the word pest. Now, pest can be defined as any destructive animal or plant which is harmful or injurious to the environment or the health or the population which is living in that particular environment. So, this definition includes various ants, grasshoppers, rodents, fungus, weeds, virus, bacteria, or any other microorganisms which are harmful to the environment and the health of population which is living in that particular area. So this gives us the another term which is pest control. So pest control means we have to control the population of these pests. So any regulation or management of the species which is designated as a pest is called pest control. So pest control means we have to control the population of pests which is increasing uncontrollably. The various methods of pest controls may include such as cultural methods, mechanical, biological, or chemical methods. The next definition is pesticide. So this word pesticide is made up from the two separate words. One is pest, as we have discussed above, and side. The term side means kill. So your pesticide is any substance or the mixture of substance that prevent or destroy or repel any pest. So your pesticide, it may be chemical pesticide or it may be biological agent, such as it may be virus, bacteria, or fungus that when applied, it kills or stop the growth of unwanted pest. Now, use of these pests has, of course, certain benefits. At the same time, these pesticides, they have also many drawbacks, such as potential toxicity to humans and other species. So that we will discuss later on. The other term is target. Now, in pesticide chemistry, the word target is used for the that particular pest over which pesticide is applied. For example, malathion is a pesticide which is used to control or kill mosquitoes. So here mosquitoes are the target. So target can be any substance, living or substance or microorganism over which pesticide is applied. The next term is lethal dose. So this lethal dose is a very important term in pesticide chemistry. Now, when pesticide is applied over any organism, it kills that organism or stop its growth. So lethal dose is defined as the effective concentration of pesticide that kills 50% of animals in that particular group. So lethal dose is a minimum concentration which is of the pesticide which is required to kill 50% of the animals in that particular group. It is also called median lethal dose and it's given by LD50. So lower the value of this LD50, more will be that effectiveness of particular pesticide because it will now required in less concentration to kill 50% of those harmful pests. The next term is pesticide residues. So when these pesticides are applied on any food or crops, some of these pesticides or their residues they remain over that particular crops. So because of that, they can enter in food chain and they can enter into the human body also. So these pesticide residues they are very harmful to the environment as well as to the humans. The another term is pesticide tolerance. So the as we have discussed above, some of these pesticides which remains on the crops can end up in the food chain and they can end up in the human body, which are very harmful. So pesticide tolerance can be defined as the maximum residue level of a particular pesticide that is permitted or on a specific human or a animal food. So that means that particular concentration or the maximum residue level is safe. That is called pesticide tolerance. The next term is safe level. Now, the safe level is a concentration below which no organism or only certain percentage of organism is affected in the ecosystem. So, the safe level of pesticide means it can kill unwanted pest, but it doesn't leave enough pesticide residues to harm any humans or animals. So that is called safe level of those pesticides. So these were the various terms that were used in the pesticide chemistry. Now next are the properties and the characteristics of these pesticides. Now these pesticides, they must have certain properties or the characteristics. The very first property of these pesticides that it should be inexpensive and easily available in the market. The second property is it should be effective only against a particular specific target organism. That means if a pesticide is used for the particular target organism, it must kill only that particular organism and should not affect other organism present in that particular environment. The third one is it should be non-persistent and it should be non-toxic to other living organisms. The fifth characteristic is that it should be biodegradable. Now, biodegradable means it should be automatically degrade itself when it is sprayed or put on the any pesticide. And as we have discussed earlier, it should have high LD50 values. That mean lesser concentration should be required for that particular pesticide. But as we know, these pesticides, they are basically they are harmful, toxic, or the most of them are toxic or the poisonous chemicals, and therefore they can enter into the soil, water, and air. So basically, they are also can act as a pollutants. So the another characteristic and the important characteristic of these pesticide is they must be less harmful to the other living organisms, and they should do less pollution. If we want to classify these pesticides, we can classify them into basically two categories. One are the natural pesticides, and second one are the synthetic pesticides. So the natural pesticides are those, as its name indicates, they can be obtained from the nature, and mostly they are obtained from the plants by using their extracts. They can also be obtained from the minerals, bacteria, or fungi. In some cases, they can be extracted from the plant and they can be used alone or with other toxicants and auxiliary materials. The example of such natural pesticides are nicotine, parathens, rotenants, alethrines. The other ignores like boric acid. Boric acid is a mineral which can be obtained from the nature, and it's a very effective pesticide against termites and cockroaches. Similarly, Dimorticus earth is a dry powdery material which is derived from the shells of marine organisms, and it can be used to kill crawling pests. Nicotine is obtained from stems and leaves of tobacco plants, and it can be used to kill aphids, leafhoppers, and thrips. Similarly, parathorins can be obtained from the flower of paratherium plant and can be used to kill flies, and it is basically non-toxic to the humans. Similarly, rotenone, which is obtained from the roots of Daris plant, is used as a fish poison. Now, there are a number of advantages of these natural pesticides as they are free from the synthetic chemicals, but at the same time, they have certain disadvantages. The main disadvantage of these natural pesticides is that they are much more expensive since they have to be extracted from the natural resources, so they are more expensive than the synthetic chemical. At the same time, they are less pest specific. And that means their effect is less as compared to the synthetic chemicals, as well as they can kill other pests apart from the target pests. So the second category of these pesticides is a synthetic pesticides. So the synthetic pesticides, as their name indicates, these are the pesticides which can be prepared in the laboratory, and they are mostly synthetic chemicals, and they are man-made synthetic chemicals. Now, these synthetic chemicals such as DDT, malathion, parathion, they have a very high efficiency and they have very low cost, and therefore they are much more popular as compared to the natural pesticides. So now next is let us discuss the benefits and the harmful effects of pesticides. So as we have discussed, these pesticides, they can have both uh, benefits as well as they are harmful to the humans as well as to the environment. So let us first discuss benefits of pesticides. The very first benefit is in improving productivity. Now, productivity means basically they are used in agriculture, and and let's take the example of this food grain production. Now, if you look at the food grain production in 1948 to 49, it was around 50 million tons, and there was lot of loss in crops due to the presence of pests. However, this has had increased to 198 million tons at the end of 96 to 97 from an estimated 169 million hectares of permanently cropped land. And this result is because of the use of pesticides that kill harmful pests who affect the crops. Second is these pests they can be used for the protection of crop losses and the yield reduction by removing weeds. Now these weeds they are very harmful to the crops, and their unwanted plants. So, by the use of these pesticides, or we can kill these weeds, and that land can be used for the further agriculture production. Similarly, when various crops are stored in the form of grains, at that time also lot of pests damaged that particular grains. So these pesticides, they can be used to control those pests who affect these stored grains, and therefore they can also increase the amount of crops which is there. Similarly, they can be used for the protection of domestic animals. So these pesticides are used to protect domestic animals from the illness caused by various parasites like lice, ticks, fleas, and mosquitoes, etc., by killing them. It is also used in vector disease control, in particular like malaria, dengue, and yellow fever, which are caused by mosquitoes and other uh, unwanted pests. So these pesticides, they can kill those unwanted pests, and these diseases can be prevented. Moreover, they can also be used to increase quality of food uh, by uh, by removing the amount of pests which are in there. So they are used in the other areas also, like transport sectors makes extensive use of pesticides, particular herbicides. Now these herbicides are maintained the turf and sport pitches, cricket ground, golf courses, and their insecticides are used to protect in the buildings. They are used to protect the wooden structures damaged by termites and wooden boring insects, and so on. So these are the many advantages of use of these pesticides, but most of times they're used in the agriculture industry to protect the crops. Now, at the same time, they have certain adverse effects also. And their adverse effect, they are mostly have a direct impact on the human beings. Now, as we have discussed, these pesticides which are in use nowadays, mostly they are chemicals. And when they're used on the crops, they leave large amount of pesticide residues which enters into the human chain, and that result in a chronic illness. And it has been estimated the worldwide deaths and the chronic illness due to the pesticide poisoning are number about 1 million per year, so which is a very big number. So, and this problem is more in developing countries, as in developing countries, there is a inadequate regulations and safety precautions. So 99% of these pesticide related deaths, they occur in developing countries. That accounts for only 25% of pesticide use. The second is acute or the immediate health effect. Now, since these pesticides, they are toxic chemicals, so when they are used, they can cause some immediate side effects such as irritation of eyes, nose, throat. They can cause skin causing burns, stinging, and rashes. Now, people with asthma, they have a very strong reaction to these pesticides, such as to the parathyroid and organophosphate and carbamate pesticides. Similarly, they can have a long-term health effect, as we have discussed earlier, and long-term side effects. They may be very serious, such as cancer and tumors. They may result in a brain and nervous system damage, birth defect, infertility, and other reproductive problems. They also affect liver, kidney, and lungs, and they can result in a leukemia. They also impact through the food commodities. Now, in India, it has been revealed that around 50% of the vegetable samples taken from the various farms are found contaminated with the various pesticides. So, and these pesticides were found in the limit of 0.01 to 2.23 ppm value, which is 16% above from the minimum safe value. They have very strong impact on the environment. Now, on the environment, the use of pesticides can result in a contamination of soil and water as well as other vegetations. Now, apart from the second factor which affect most is these pesticides, they are sometimes they are less specific. That means they kill their target pest as well as some other uh, other pests which are not harmful, but they are good for the agriculture as well for the crops. So they can also potential threat to the non-target organisms. Similarly, as we have discussed, above, they can contaminate surface groundwater, which is used for the drinking purpose, and therefore they can enter in the food chain, and that can result in a lot of illness and diseases. At the same time, they can also result in a groundwater contamination and soil contamination. These pesticides, they have also very strong effect on the soil fertility. So if these pesticides are used again and again, they reduce the fertility of soil, as well as they reduce the amount of various elements which are present in the soil, such as nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Uh, the repeated use of these pesticides can result in a pesticide resistance and pest resurgence. So this pesticide resistance means when these pesticides they used again and again, the new generation of pests they become resistant to them, and these pesticides they become ineffective. So that also results in a more environment pollution. So this was the today's lecture, and in this lecture we have discussed brief history of these pesticide, and we have seen these pesticides are used dated back to around 45,000 years ago. And then we have discussed general introduction and the various terms which are used in pesticide chemistry, and we have discussed the various natural and synthetic pesticides which are available, and the benefits and the harmful effect of pesticides. So this was the today's lecture on the pesticide chemistry. Thank you for watching.